Mr. Noel Gallagher, nice
Hello.
to see you again.
Thank you very much.
So first time we met, we were in a luxurious hotel in Rome 20 years ago, rooftop terrace,
Wow.
drinking some martini.
This sounds romantic.
Yeah, it was very romantic. We had a very long interview, lovely interview. So we're meeting 20 years after,
Wow.
in our 50s. You
Wow.
just turned 50
Yeah.
in May. I'm turning 50 in 2 months.
Wow.
And I would say that the best has yet to come.
I would think so.
What do you
I would
think?
think so. I think so. You look great. I feel great. It can only get better from here on in. Yeah.
So what I would like to do with you, it would be lovely if you would say something more about your personal evolution. I mean, from a angry young man to a young adult, a family man. A lot of things changed and a lot of things transformed completely. So tell me something about this personal evolution that I can tell from the things you are declaring from your latest interviews or your last album.
I think that when you're in your 20s, you've got a lot of power and a lot of stamina and a lot of, you've got a lot of life and energy. And then as you get older, you tend to slow down. You don't tend to change too much. You just slow down a little bit, and you tend to become more aware of who you are. But I think the biggest change in my life was meeting my wife.
Really?
Yes, well, I met her in Ibiza 18 years ago, and that was the biggest catalyst for me, because as I met her, I had a change of lifestyle. And and then children change you. I've got 3 children now. I've got a teenage daughter and 2 young boys, and I guess I read about people who are still behaving the way that they are at this age when they were 25. I felt that a little bit weird. If you've not really developed if your brain hasn't developed as a person, the older that you get. I don't understand it. But when I turned 50, when you're a rock star, you're supposed to keep that quiet. But I think you should embrace who you are, and kind of. Of course. My 40s were, honestly, if my 50s are half as good as what my 40s were, my 40s were an incredible 10 years for me, both personally and creatively and all that. And if my 50s are that much as good as my 40s, I'll be very, very happy.
I'm sure it's going to be like this.
The key to all this is this. Because without this, the rest of it's meaningless.
Yeah,
and to the people
right.
listening on the radio, I'm pointing to my hairdo. And when you have great hair, anything is possible.
That's true.
This is true. You've got great hair.
Yeah, I've got gray hair like here, which is starting, and I'm really proud about it. Yeah.
Should be.
Yeah.
You should be. There's kind of people who don't have great hair, Sorry about that, but there you go. That's the card you were dealt.
And then, Noel, I have to say something. You belong to a country. I was seeing Rolling Stones a month ago, and I flew to New York to interview Roger Waters.
Oh, wow.
He's 74.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness.
I've always wanted to meet
those
Roger
people,
Waters.
they're in the 70s and they're amazing.
And do you know what the common denominator is? They've all got great hair. Because if Mick Jagger is bald, right, who gives a shit? It's finished. It's over. If Roger Waters is bald, nobody cares. It's finished, Phil Collins, he's bald. Nobody gives a shit. See you later.
So let's go back to, I wanted to, because you were making me thinking about something. You were saying that your wife really changed your life. And I think that relation with a person you love is really challenging, especially nowadays. And that allows us to grow up as a human being.
I think so, yeah. I guess it depends. Our relationship isn't really that much of a challenge because we get on so great, you know what I mean? And
that's beautiful.
Because I'm away a lot, we don't kind of see each other as much as you would like a normal couple. And it's like we rarely fight, rarely. And which is strange because she's Scottish and they've got a fiery temper. But we don't really fight. But our relationship is, you know, I've not been able to come up with a sentence where I can sum it up. It's too big for that, for me, you know.
That's beautiful, though.
It'd be nice to know what she thinks. She probably thinks I'm an idiot.
I don't think so. Well, so let's talk about music. What do you reckon? Do you think it's easier or more difficult for you today to find a way to get straight to the people's heart?
It depends how you go about it. If you keep doing the same thing, it's easy. Okay?
You're true.
If you keep doing what your fans want you to do, then it's easy. Because now with social media, your fans can contact you and they can
tell you
what they want.
Of course.
So you know, that's easy. To keep moving your sound or your thing forward, it gets more difficult because you have to take risks. You have to be prepared to fail. You have to be prepared to be ridiculed. But ultimately, if you're not prepared for that, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
You know, there's kind of all the people that I grew up admiring, like Roger Waters and the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and David Bowie
and Paul Weller and Prince and all those great icons, they never stood still. That's true.
And I got to the end of my last tour and I'd written the album, I'd produced the album, I'd done the artwork, I'd done the tour, I came back. So I got a real sense of who I was. And I decided to put a full stop against it and go, okay, I know that guy. Everybody knows who he is. There's nothing more that I can do with that sound. Nothing.
Certo.
I can go on making money and you know, my fans can go on feeling comfortable, but it's like, well, that's a bit boring, you know. And 50 years of age seemed like a good time to throw all the cards in the air and see what happened. And my record speaks for itself. It's the best record that I've made. And I think the gigs are going to be fantastic and everybody's happy. I've got a new band and life is good.
That's where I wanted to lead you, because your new album, Who Built the Moon, is a musical journey from a surprising start as Fort Knox to the single Holy Mountain, of course we know by heart so far, to the greatness of The Man Who Built the Moon, right to the essence of your strong writing with Dead in the Water. How is the challenge in doing a long-form album, a proper long-form album in 2017?
Well, usually I would just sit at home and wait until songs appeared. But with this album, I met a guy called David Holmes who said to me, "You're great at doing that thing. You're amazing. But I think that you could do so much more." And I was kind of like, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "Come to the studio. Don't write any songs. We'll do it in the studio." So, and every time I would write something, he would stop me and say, No. That sounds like Oasis. And I'd say, "Great, right?" You know. And he'd say, "Yeah, well, try something different." And then I'd play a bit more and he'd say, "But that sounds like High Flying Birds." And I'd be like, "Still fucking great, right?" And he'd say, "Just try something different." And he was always pushing me to in a different direction. And for the first part, I was a bit confused and I was a bit like, it wasn't really going anywhere. And then all of a sudden, as soon as I realised where it was going,
Certo.
I found it very easy. And I learned, if I thought I knew myself after the end of my last tour, I know even more now, because I realised that my instincts are kind of always right, and I have pretty much no fear in the studio, and I'll try anything, you know, and we'll see what happens, and if it's good, it's good. If it's not, don't worry about it. You know, and it simply goes for this album. Nobody's heard it yet. The only people that don't like it are the people who haven't heard it. Because we live in an age of social media where you put one snippet of a track out and everyone goes, it's dreadful, it's awful. And you're just like, really?
You didn't listen to the whole record. I mean,
you know, of course. So, but when it comes out, now, I don't know what people think about it, but I think if I know the people who've bought my music in the past, I think they'll like it. But if they don't like it, I'll just make another record. And you get fans who are like, wow, what's he doing? And you're just like, it's only music. That's all it is. No one's asking you to buy it. No one's asking you to come to the gigs. You know, so it's like, calm the fuck down. You know, give it a listen. You know what I mean? And I'm sure I feel in my heart, I know people are going to love it.
That's beautiful.
I do.
And I think this is important. And I was smiling to my author because it's amazing, but that's the same thing with that happened with Roger Waters with Nigel Godrich. He told me it was the first time in his life. I mean, we all know his character and I mean the person he is. And it was like he told me it was the first time in his life that Nigel told him, come to the studio and improvise. And it was like, no, I want to write the songs in my place. And it was like, no, you improvise here with the rest of the band. And in fact, Smell the Roses, the first single, it was like created like this. And it was like, I couldn't believe because it was so hard for me to stay in the studio and improvising because I didn't recognize myself in that thing, which is what you're saying. And I think this is so beautiful because both of you, him with Nigel Godrich and you with David Holmes, you work with producers which are not so scontati.
Most producers, not all of them, but most producers are quite willing to go into a studio and say, show me what you've got.
See?
Right? And then they'll just go, great, let's do it. And they don't really involve themselves. They sit back and they take the check and they move on to the next thing. There are some producers like David Holmes and, as you say, Nigel Godrich, who will just go, no, try something else. And when people in the studio are saying to you, try something else, that's a very vague statement.
Of course.
And I was like, but what does that mean? What does it mean? And the vagueness of the statement was pushing you to just to like, I can't play the keyboards very well. I would spend all day playing the keyboards. You know, my wife would say to me one night when I came in from the studio, how did it go today? And I was like, I don't know. She said, well, what were you doing? I was like, I was playing a synthesizer for 7 hours. And she said, but you can't play the synthesizer. And I was going,
especially for 7 hours.
I don't even know how I got 7 hours out of it. And out of those 7 hours, David found one tiny piece of thing that I played. And he'd said, right, this is the song. And then you'd scrap everything else, you'd go back to the beginning and work on that. And that's something I would never, ever do because I don't have any patience at all. When I'm writing, I want it all done today. Come on, I've got things to do, you know what I mean? There's a football team to support, you know, I've got a wife, I've got kids, it's chop, chop. But he was like, slow down, you know, let's see what's going, you know, and it was a brilliant experience.
Bello, bellissimo. That's really amazed me because it's so interesting to understand how like the music process and the creative process of an artist, of a genius as you are. I mean, you were saying before genius, but that's what I personally think is evolving. I think this is so important, especially when we are not 30 anymore.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
I mean, that's beautiful.
But I could never have made this album 10 years ago. Or I could never have made this album if I was in the band. There's no way, because there would have been too many opinions about
interfering.
We can't have a song like Fort Knox. We can't do this. We can't do that. So when you're a solo artist and you run your own business, your own record label and all that, you can do what you want. And like I say, you live and die by those decisions. So when this album comes out, if nobody likes it, that's down to me. That's not down to anybody else. You know. So. But if it's successful, that's also down to me. So we see.
My personal wish is that Death in the Water would be like a single.
I don't think...
It's so... of course, he has no the requirements.
Do you know the story behind that?
But I would like to know that from you.
So we were in the middle of the Chasing Yesterday tour and we had a break. And I was at home and I was just watching TV with the sound down, like I do, and I had a guitar, and I wasn't really watching TV, and I wasn't really playing the guitar, and I was just in a trance somewhere else, and I started to write this song. It took me not even 1 hour to write that song, all of it. So the next thing that we did was only a few days later. We were in Ireland and we were doing a radio session, and it was for the single at the time was Dying of the Light off my last record.
Of course.
So we're doing an acoustic session, and in between the takes, the sound in my headphones was so amazing that I just sang Dead in the Water, right? I had no idea it was being recorded. I didn't even know it existed. So I was singing it for me alone, right? Which is why that song is so magic. And my keyboard player was looking, and he was kind of
following
the chords, and I was begging for him to stop playing. I was like, fucking stop. And so anyway, recorded the song. I didn't even mention it to anyone. About 2 months ago, when we're putting together Who Built the Moon.
So you forgot the song?
I forgot it. Somebody said, do you have any bonus material? And I was like, no, we didn't do any B-sides. And Ray from my office, who's here today, shouted across the thing, what about that track you did in Ireland? And I was like, what track? And he said, something about the water. And I was like, oh, Dead in the Water. And he said, yeah, remember that day you played it? And I said, yeah, but I haven't got time to go to the studio and record it. And he said, no, I think they recorded it. And I went, get out. So we got in touch with the studio, and they said, yeah, we recorded it. And they sent it to me. When I heard it, honestly, I got goosebumps.
Goosebumps, yeah, I can tell, because I had goosebumps as well.
Because it's so
intimate.
I was singing it for me,
yeah.
and it's the first time I've ever done that, because when you're in the studio, you know other people are going to hear it. And it's a real special moment in time. And the best bit is when the keyboard player at the end says, is that a new song? And I go, yeah, it's okay. You know. And so I'm going to probably not ever record that song and just keep it like that, like a special moment. I play it live and everybody will cry. And but it's a beautiful, beautiful song. It's like a real personal moment between me and myself.
But see, you can tell, I mean, as long as I listened to it, I was like, oh, this is so intimate. It's like I was like coming into your house and opened the door, and you didn't know I was there. So that I had that feeling, which I think people will enjoy.
Well, when I was playing the album to people, like my friends, every track, everyone, they talk all the way through going, oh, this is great, what's this? When it came to Dead in the Water, silence. Everybody was silent, because it's such a it kind of draws you into the mood. And real special moment in time.
See, I think we should be really grateful to that people record things.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you think about the sound engineer was recording like Beatles, and they didn't know like some tracks while they were at BBC.
It's fantastic. It really is great.
Because it's their intuition that makes something special. So we are all interconnected, and this is beautiful. Okay, I don't know. I think we got 5 or 10 minutes left. Stories are what made me loving this job. In fact, I just wrote a book titled Rock and Resilience, because I want to tell that by music you can like enjoy your life and you can change your destiny from an underdog to a genius. I mean, I come from Sicily, and music gave me everything. So stories are what made me falling in love with music. If you would tell me like the most beautiful story of your life, of your music career, what would it be? Because I mean, you are the right example.
Maybe I've just told you.
Yeah.
Maybe that. But I
mean, music gave you everything.
I'm like you. My without music, I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I would be. And I think it's something that you're born with. Now, music and the songs fascinate me. What fascinates me, I think, the most about songs is me and you could sit and listen to. You could say to me, I'm going to play you my favourite song. It's the best song in the world. And you could play it to me and I'd go, really? That's awful. And what fascinates me, and I could play you a song and I'd say, this is a great song. And you'd say, it's dreadful. What fascinates me is why some people think so differently about the same piece of music.
That's true.
Because, you know, in some way, songs, they have to speak to you. They have to say something. And not even literally, the words don't have to mean anything. The overall vibe has to speak to you in some way. And I get that with songs that I write. When I heard Dead in the Water, I thought, you know, for instance, Don't Look Back in Anger, okay? Without, that song is fucking extraordinary.
Definitely.
It's not even an extraordinary song, but it's just this extraordinary thing that has spanned 3 decades now. 3 generations of people are taking different things from it. And it's not just in the UK or Europe, it's all over the world. I play stadiums in South America and it's kind of like, sometimes I'm playing it and I'm thinking, wow, what happened that night when I wrote that song? What? And I've sat and I've read the lyrics and I play it every night and I'm still like, just magic from the gods, you know. Somebody, that night, I wrote it in Paris on a rainy night and somebody just said, there, that's for you, you know. And it's an incredible thing.
Yeah,
it really is.
Beautiful. I love those stories. I mean, the inspiration, how it come. It was like Metallica who played "Don't Look Back in Anger." Yeah, I think
even they did a good job.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to say. They were, I guess, playing in Manchester or something like that. I was reading that the other day. But I mean, yours is a story. Your personal story is a story of resilience. I mean, from Manchester, and you were with the Spiral Carpets when you were young. Is that? Yeah. I mean, I remember. Yeah, you were the roadie of the band.
I realised instantly. I think the night that I wrote, or the day that I wrote "Live Forever," I realised then. I thought, right, I have now one chance to make a mark, and that song was the first great song that I wrote. And if I'd have only written that one great song in my entire life, I would have been ecstatic. You know, I would have played that song. But then, through perseverance and wanting to be that guy, then came Champagne Supernova, Don't Look Back in Anger, Wonderwall, Lila, What a Life, If I Had Gone, Dead in the Water. You know, all these great songs. And it's because, you know, I realised it, that this is it. It's happening, you know. And that's why I write every day. I never take it for granted. I never just, you know, take 6 months off, sit around the house and then go, oh, okay, mate, I'll get back into songwriting now. I do it every fucking day of my life.
Yeah.
Not when I'm away doing this. The first thing I'll do when I get home is see my wife, my kids, and then even if I have 5 minutes, I just pick up the guitar. Something might come. More often than not, nothing. But even if nothing comes, it makes me feel good. You know, and
Beethoven was saying, I mean, I don't let one day passing by without me sitting at the piano, even for nothing.
Yeah,
this is amazing.
Yeah, I'm into that. That's what I do. That is what I do. And even, you know, if you think about it, that day in Ireland when I'm doing The Dying of the Light, why did I play that song that day? Why? No one had ever heard it. It's like I was going to record it at some point. No one ever heard it. The notion came to me, oh, this sounds great, I'll play that song. And then somebody somewhere made that guy press play and record, and he recorded it. And then somebody made Ray remember it, and then we got it. And I put it on the album, and there we go. And you will play it on your radio show, and people will park their cars and cry and say, that guy's a fucking genius.
Exactly. And what I really want to say, I mean, the transcendental power of music.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, there's a generous God of music somewhere who is like inspiring us.
Well,
I believe that. I totally believe that. It's the magic about music.
Of course, in the case of Don't Look Back in Anger, when the bombs in Manchester happened, You know, it wasn't the politicians that brought people together. It wasn't the words of the Queen of England or anything like that, or religious leaders. It was that song. And I don't even say my song, it was that song. And that girl, just a member of the public, decided that she was going to bring everybody together. And she did it through that song, and everybody rallied around that song, and that was like, wow, fuck, crazy shit. Yeah, you know. And there you go, that's the power of music.
To tell you, I mean, thank you very much. I knew you were a special guy when I met you 20 years ago, and that's beautiful. You confirm me that you are a beautiful,
thank you very much,
50-year-old genius and musician.
What can I say?
Virgin Radio.